Anyway, now we're going to jump to Charles Tarbey for our regular review of the week to see what's happening in the property market. Welcome, Charles.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Always a pleasure. It's good to see you, and I gather the market's changing, and maybe tell us what's happening with clearance rates.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting week. We've been watching the clearance rates. They're still strong, Chris. They're not in the doldrums, in the 40s and 50s, which is where you're really finding it tough. The clearance rate's sitting nationally at 70% rounded out. And the capital cities like Sydney came in at 70.3, Melbourne came in at 73.5. So still very good clearance rates, except this time last year it was 78.4, and I think that's what people are focusing on. Sydney was over 80% this time last year, exactly the same date, same weekend, springtime, the whole thing. So the change is definitely there, and the agents are having to work harder.
Yeah, and we've just got that up on the screen for the viewers. And quite often, as I always comment on some of these things, is if you're after a property that ticks all the boxes, quite often the clearance rates for those things are 100% all the time. And quite often a drop in clearance rates can be just that those people that are looking for 6 or 7 out of 10, then maybe it's those ones that are not necessarily guaranteed to sell these days.
Yeah, look, it really does still depend where you are. There are certain areas where they're getting that 100% clearance rate. But when you add every capital city in or every suburb of a city, it's going to change. And as all the auctioneers will tell you, they're having to work a lot harder. The agents are having to work a lot harder. They're all back in real estate again. And I was chatting to Matt Shalhoub earlier on under the Hammer auctioneer. And he said, look, there's people going to be dropping out. Lots of auctioneers came in during the boom, Chris, so I think lots are going to go out soon.
We'll keep an eye on Tom's haircut to see if he's losing hair as he gets stressed over the coming months then. Okay. How's things going for homes advertised for sale?
Look, you've got to stop those hair jokes. You and I have had a chat about this once before. I look at the conversation around town is saying there's a lot more stock. But in actual fact, if you look at it nationally, we're negative, which is really quite a surprise. Only negative by 0.16, but it's still negative. Although you're hearing auctioneers say to you they've got lots of bookings coming up. So probably in weeks to come when these are out there in the market, because not all auctions that are booked are actually published, ready to go. So at this point in time, not where I thought it would be, but I'm sure we'll see some more stock coming on. Because
certainly spring's a positive time for real estate, isn't it?
Well, it's supposed to be, I guess. We've lacked seasons for many, many years, as you know, because the market has been moving so rapidly. We haven't seen any of the seasons at all. You know, winter was just as busy as summer or spring, but I think we're probably in for it. We could see it a little bit back, first winter, first spring, so it'd be great to see what it looks like in a couple of weeks' time.
Now, I'm not sure if you caught the conversation before, but we were talking with Derek about some people starting to bid up the rents. What are you seeing on a national basis?
I'm sorry, about the rents?
Oh, Derek was saying that there's some areas where people are starting kind of Dutch auctions on the rents,
right.
Competition for getting into rental properties.
Yeah, look, that's probably going to become even more evident over the years to come, because not so much because of a Dutch auction, but more so because people are looking for an easier way or a simpler way. It's a process in the real estate industry that needs a lot of work. You know, where a tenant comes in, you've got to go to the landlord, back to the tenant, back to the landlord, you're negotiating. I think that those platforms are going to be in play for an even more important reason, and that's going to be for transparency purposes, and also so that the landlord and the tenant can negotiate the best platform for both of them with the agent involved, without the agent interfering.
Wonderful. And then finally, the vacancy rates.
Yes, look, the vacancy rates are, again, they're very, very strong when I look at them overall. I can see the Melbourne market, sorry, Chris, the Melbourne market is 0.83%. That's a really low figure. Sydney came in at 1.62%. And Perth is still under 8, albeit at 7.97%. It's still under 8, and I'm really looking forward to that dropping. The three capital cities together are 3.47%. And what I didn't tell you before was that the rent prices are up 0.47, with Adelaide coming off at 1.31, and actually Perth going up at 0.37. So it's encouraging to watch the movement in Perth at the moment.
And just before we say goodbye, Charles, we should probably tell the viewers that the show's going to have an improvement for the next couple of weeks, as you're going to be hosting the show while I'm away for the next 2 weeks.
That's right, and that goes back to that hair thing you were talking about. We've got to keep away from that, but there will be people on the show with hair next week, and thank you for the opportunity, Chris. I'll be hosting the show while you're away for a couple of weeks.
Wonderful.
Looking forward to it.
I'll see you in a few weeks. All right, we're going to take a short break now, but we'll be back soon.